Good afternoon, and thank you everyone for being here. I'm Angela Brady. I'm the Acting Director of the Seattle Department of Transportation, and this is a really exciting day. We're here today to mark an important step to create irresistibly great transit service on Denny Way, one of the busiest and most challenging corridors in our city, where bus riders experience delays every single day. This project responds directly to Mayor Wilson's first executive order focused on improving time performance and transit reliability along Denny Way for the Route 8. I'm incredibly proud of our talented SDOT team who moved very quickly to turn the mayor's direction into a plan we can deliver on this year. At the end of the day, this work is about helping bus riders spend less time stuck in traffic and moving more people within the street space that we live in. I want to also take a minute to thank Seattle voters for believing in and funding moments like these. We depend on the Seattle Transportation Levy to redesign and rebuild our streets to meet the needs of our growing city. And we use the Seattle Transit Measure to add extra bus trips to leverage those investments, and with even more transit service with our partners at King County Metro. Once changes are in, after the mayor's going to talk to you about more specifics here, once the changes are in, people will have had a chance to use the new operations. We're committed to monitoring how Denny Way, the South Lake Union network, and the Route 8 is performing and make changes and design tweaks as necessary. So thank you again for being here. We have a lot of really great speakers today. Very excited to be here, and I'm going to turn this over to Mayor Wilson.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, if I kind of yell, is that okay for you guys? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Yes. So this is probably one of my favorite moments so far as mayor, to be here announcing this project. First, I want to really thank Angela Brady and all the folks at SDOT who put an incredible amount of quick work into figuring out how we can make this project work. And I want to thank the Fix the Late campaign, and and all of the transit advocates and community members who have put so much work in over the years advocating for this to happen. This is really a personal issue for me. You know, before I was mayor, when I was organizing with the Transit Riders Union. Back in, I think it was 2018, when we teamed up with other transportation and climate groups to form the MASS Coalition, Move All Seattle Sustainably. Shout out to MASS people here. And one of our big focuses was pushing for more dedicated bus lanes, more transit priority around the city, so that transit riders are not being treated like second-class citizens. And so, you know, we made, progress, right, in the 8 years or so since then, but honestly, it's been a little frustratingly slow. So I'm just so excited and proud to be in a position now where I can help to move things forward more quickly. This is also personal for me as a transit rider. You know, I am one of the 20% and growing proportion of Seattle households that do not own a car. I've never owned a car. And the Route 8, as someone who lives on Capitol Hill, is one of my favorite buses and one of my buses, right? I've taken that bus with my daughter to explore the tide pools in that direction. I've taken that bus to Seattle Center to watch, you know, Shakespeare plays. You know, I've taken that bus to take my daughter to daycare, and then of course down to Mount Baker to access so many locations to the south. And so, I mean, this is just like a workhorse route, right? This is one of our highest ridership routes. And it has long struggled with reliability. I recently had the opportunity to go on KEXP, and I had to choose a song, and I chose a song by Taco Cat called FU number 8, which I believe was written in like 2012 or 2014. So we're talking about like over a decade since this route has been so frustratingly unreliable that people write songs about it. So, and I have to say, like, being stood up by your bus is honestly one of the most dispiriting experiences that you can have, and I know every transit rider out there here today and around the city knows exactly what I mean. There's just nothing that makes you feel like you're not valuable, like your time is not valuable, and it's serious, right? Like, you can lose a job because you're half an hour late because your bus didn't come, and at the very least, it ruins your day. So, this moment is. This is like our opportunity to start fixing this problem, so yes. And this is really also just now speaking less from the personal transit rider experience, but from kind of my role now as an elected official and a steward of our public funds, right? So we invest a lot in our public transit system. Public transit is something that Seattle voters have consistently, overwhelmingly supported. People want great public transit. And so when we're raising these tax dollars to fund our transit system, we have to make sure that we are using that money effectively and efficiently. And so when we have our buses stuck in traffic, almost motionless for 30 minutes or 45 minutes, that's just not a good use of our transit investment. So this is really also about that. It's about the climate crisis, right? It's about creating the opportunity for people to get around through the mode of their choice. If your bus isn't coming, and you have an option to drive, you're probably going to take that option. So this is important for so many reasons. So I know y'all want to know exactly what we're going to do. So we are going to be doing this in 2 phases. And the first phase is going to start next month, May, which is like a week away. And so in phase 1, we are going to be installing a southbound bus-only left turn lane on Queen Anne Avenue North onto Denny Way, and an eastbound business access and transit or BAT lane on Denny Way between Queen Anne Avenue North and 2nd Avenue. That is phase 1. Yes, round of applause.
Yeah.
So at that point, we run into a little bit of a roadblock because there's this thing called the World Cup that's going to be happening in Seattle, and we have a kind of a moratorium on right-of-way construction for that period. So phase 2 is going to kick off in August, so we're going to keep the red carpet rolling and tackle the most problematic clog points. So that means we're going to install an eastbound bus lane between 5th Avenue and Stewart Street. And we're going to be restricting a few turns and fixing, this is really important, fixing the Yale Street choke point to keep the whole area moving. So this is actually going to be a massive improvement in the way that traffic flows in this whole area. And this is also being timed to coincide with additional investments in transit service. So coming this summer, we're actually going to have just more frequency on this route as well. So I am really hopeful that we are going to see just like a massive increase in the quality of the transit riding experience on this route and in this corridor.
Yeah.
And we're not stopping there. So another part of the executive order that I issued in January was asking SDOT to come back with some other recommendations of routes and areas where bus lanes or transit priority could really get things moving. So SDOT has identified many more, nearly a dozen, opportunities to make our transit system work better. And we're going to be working with them over the next few years to get those things done. So I'm very, very excited. And I think with that, I'm turning it over to Jason and Nick with the Fix the Lake campaign. Thank you all for being here. This is an amazing turnout, by the way.
Yeah.
Hello. My name is Nick. I founded and helped co-lead the Fix the Late campaign, and for 3 years we've been fighting for faster and more reliable buses here on Denny Way. Route 8 is one of the slowest and least reliable buses in Seattle, and it's also one of the highest ridership. It's the only east-west bus in South Lake Union or Belltown. It connects to over 15 north-south routes across Denny Way. You may remember us from last summer when we raced the bus. by walking, jumping rope, dancing, cha-cha sliding, hopscotching, all faster than this bus, because at rush hour it goes 2 miles an hour. 2 miles an hour up and down Denny Way. That is slower than walking, and there are turtles that go faster. In 2009, the Stranger deemed Route 8 as Seattle's crappiest bus route, and it has held that title ever since. Since 2009, South Lake Union has boomed. Capitol Hill and Belltown are some of the densest places in the state, and as Mayor Wilson alluded to, Taco Cat wrote their anthem, FU number 8. Since that headline, we've had 6 mayors that haven't acted on making Route 8 the fast, frequent, and reliable connection it deserves. We've done more studies and more analysis and more delay, all as we've seen climate change get worse, our traffic get worse, and our transit slowly get slower. That's why I'm so excited today, on Earth Day, to be announcing a change to this policy. For 3 years, we've been fighting for better transit, and since then, engineers at the city have been clear that we need bus lanes to make our transit system fast, frequent, and reliable. Our planners have been very clear that we need bus lanes to live up to our climate goals, to live up to our livability goals, and the community has been very clear that we need bus lanes to get around fast, frequently, and reliably. At the beginning of this year, Mayor Wilson saw through that and cut the red tape, elevated the solution, and gave direction to the department that we would build a bus lane. Not because it is hard, but because it is easy. As the other Washington is doing everything in their power to drive up gas prices and inflation, in Seattle we're doing things a little bit differently. Now people will have an alternative to driving in South Lake Union. Today, the fastest way to get from this spot to Linwood is to get behind your car and drive there. But after this bus lane goes in, the fastest way at rush hour is going to be to get on the 8, go to Capitol Hill Station, and take the light rail. And finally, people are going to have the freedom to get around when they want, how they want to do it, and as fast as they want to. And for all those reasons, I'm so excited to be standing up here and finally seeing that this bus lane is going to get installed. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Jason Lee and I co-lead the Fix the Late campaign. While I've been advocating for these bus lanes, I've heard countless times that we can't do this because Seattle is not like New York, that our transit network is not good enough to support a bus lane on Denny Way. The thing is, the city has done this before and it was a wild success. Just a couple of miles away, Madison Street used to be just like Denny, an arterial with 2 lanes in each direction that is chronically clogged with both local and I-5 traffic. And it had a slow and unreliable bus just like Route 8. But the city decided that enough was enough and decided to take bold action to paint bus lanes up and down that corridor for Rapid Ride G. And that has completely transformed the street and has not only given transit riders a fast, frequent, and reliable bus, but it has also convinced drivers to leave their cars at home as daily bus ridership has increased by 5,000. Think about that. Think about what happens when you replace 5,000 cars with a fleet of 13 buses. Think about how much more space we have in the city now that we don't need those parking spots. Think about how much cleaner our air and our water is. Think about how much safer our streets are. And despite all of the naysayers, think about how much better traffic is. And I'm excited, thank you. And I'm excited to see the same thing play out on Denny Way. I can't wait to finally have a bus that is faster than walking, to know that I will arrive on time, to finally lose a race against the bus, and to have drivers repeat what happened on Denny Way and start flocking to this bus in droves. But what I'm most excited about isn't this bus lane, it's about what comes next. Because like Mayor Wilson mentioned, the executive order also directed SDOT to identify other corridors that could use a bus lane. They came back with a list of nearly a dozen. And after we prove that bus lanes work on a street as constrained and as congested as Denny Way, it'll be common sense to add bus lanes on every single one of those streets. And it's more important we do this now than ever before, as the federal administration does everything in their power to keep us moving backward as a country. So we need to keep moving forward as a city, and that includes keeping our buses moving. Thank you. But even with all that, I know there will still be people who say that Seattle is not New York. But we don't have to be. This is Seattle. This is your city. And we've shown time and time again that we are willing to do what it takes to really invest in our transit network. In the last 5 years, Link Light Rail has expanded 6 times. The only train running across a floating bridge in the entire world is not in New York. It's here. Seattle is ready for this bus lane and so much more. Seattle is ready to paint the town red. Seattle is ready to build the damn trains. Seattle is ready to finally get the world-class public transit system that it deserves. And now Seattle finally has a mayor who is ready too. Thank you.
Masha Podolsky, King County Metro. First of all, I would like to thank Mayor Wilson. Thank you so much for your ongoing leadership and advocacy to make transit more reliable and fast. Irresistibly good transit service. Should we make a sticker? Also, I would like to thank Jason and Nick. Your voices made the change, actually, and really are greatly appreciated. Route 8. Consistently one of Metro's top 10 routes in the system with nearly 7,000 boardings a day. It's a huge number. Maybe almost New York, but we're not comparing, right? Bus lanes are proven measure to help buses move faster, reliably, and also with consistent travel times, all day and every day. Metro has seen significant improvements in bus operations and also ridership increase constantly everywhere in Seattle and also elsewhere in King County where bus lanes are installed. We welcome the addition of Denny Way bus lane to the list of locations where we will see reliable and fast bus service, and it's only due to the dedicated right of way. We already have seen some good news. We already have seen some travel time improvements of 20% in the PM peak period due to recently temporary closure of Yale Avenue between Denny and Stewart. When this closure becomes permanent and also the bus lanes are installed, we're definitely waiting to see even better performance on Route 8.
Yeah.
More good news? As Mayor Wilson already mentioned, we're looking forward to partner with the City of Seattle to add in full more service to Route 8 during the morning hours and during the midday period. We absolutely want to make sure that we're utilizing these new bus lanes thoroughly. Together, when we introduce improvements to our transit system, riders always follow. They are with us. And that helps us to meet our shared climate goals. This red carpet today, it's actually the moment for our riders. And we're waiting and anticipating to come back and celebrate with all of you together when this project is done. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Awesome. You know, I'll share that I've never personally been super partial to red, the color red, but it looks damn good on our streets in key corridors like this, doesn't it? Yeah. Red looks good. Red is beautiful. As an aside, my personal favorite color is purple or offshoots thereof, lavender. Wondering if maybe there's an opportunity, Madam Mayor, SDOT Director, to incorporate purple into our streets or design at some point. Maybe if the manual on uniform traffic control devices that the feds publish, maybe there'll be some purple there. I'm a geek. In any event, excited to be with you all today. I want to start by thanking Mayor Wilson for your leadership in helping us get to this point today. I want to thank SDOT for designing and soon to be implementing the vision of our city. of our city's leadership. I want to thank my elected official colleague, Councilmember Rinck, for your leadership and your partnership in helping to get this done. You and I have had, Councilmember Rinck and I have had multiple strategy sessions where we've discussed how to best bring something like this to life, how to obviate the need for folks to walk alongside the bus and beat the bus. And it is so great to be here today, to be in a position to actually do that. I also want to thank the transit operators, especially our bus drivers and members of ATU Local 587, who you'll hear from in a moment. Their essential work that they do every day to keep Seattle moving on time. I'm strongly supportive of this effort. If we're truly serious about getting more people to choose transit, then transit has to work. It has to be reliable, fast, frequent, and safe. And part of that means it has to be on time. So I say that not just as a policymaker, I say that as a daily transit rider. One of the worst kept secrets in my district in West Seattle is my daily transit route. And I'm proud to be a transit rider and commute to work, to City Hall, to big events, wherever. And I strongly encourage more people to take advantage of our transit network. But that's how I personally experience our transportation system along tens of thousands of Seattleites every day. We know that when buses are delayed, people feel it. In missed connections, longer commutes, and compounded stress. Again, the problem we're seeking to solve for is it's a bit out of hand, a bit of a head scratcher that you can literally walk and dance and hopscotch right next to a bus along the same route and beat the dang bus. That's not our city or our transit system operating at our best. That's why projects like this matter. These targeted, quick build improvements, bus lane, signal prioritization, and clearer separation from general traffic. These kind of things are exactly the kind of tools we should be using to make transit faster, more dependable, more reliable for all. Last year was proud to sponsor a budget amendment calling on the department to study the Denny Way corridor and Route 8. And that's why I'm especially partnered with Councilmember Rinck on that. So I'm especially excited to see our new mayor bring this to life through your executive order and leadership. I also want to just note something. This is important. Last week in committee, I spoke about the importance of allowing our departments like SDOT to lead on design decisions where they have the technical expertise. Elected officials, to the full extent possible, should set policy direction and vision. But we should be careful not to micromanage engineering and operational details that professionals are best equipped, best positioned to handle. That said, this right here, in my mind, is one of those very narrow cases where political leadership and coordination are essential to move a complex corridor project forward. And I'm glad to see that alignment happening here. Make no mistake, this is an ambitious plan. It's a needed plan to address our transportation network, transit, climate goals, among other city priorities, but it's ambitious. I don't want to trivialize or diminish the impacts that this is going to have to some, but this is the right thing to do, and it's the right thing to do now. That's why I also want to highlight the importance of SDOT's intelligent transportation systems, and adaptive signal control technology. As we make changes like this, we need to ensure that nearby corridors are upgraded as well to minimize congestion. So we're improving traffic flow, not just for transit riders and operators, especially for them, but for all moving through this area. At the end of the day, this is about keeping Seattle moving in the right direction. It's about making sure our transportation system works for the future efficiently and on time. And finally, just want to thank again the transit advocates for bringing this to life. I remember vividly they attended multiple of the council committee meetings that I chair, sent in multiple community letters, and this is a win. This is a win for you all, so I want us to celebrate that. Yeah. But make no mistake, everybody, this is not just a win for a narrow group of community who helped champion this effort. Yes, it is. But this is the tide. This win is the tide that lifts all boats. We all benefit and win when our transit system runs on time and is fast and reliable. So congratulations. Congratulations to you, Madam Mayor. And let's paint this corridor red. Let's go get it. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Greg Woodfill. I'm president of ATU 587, representing 4,800 transit workers in King County and the Peninsula. Thank you. As president of that union, we would like to thank the City of Seattle, its City Council, including our bus lane champions, Councilmember Saka and Rinck, SDOT, and the Transit Riders Union.
Yeah!
And the relentless grassroots juggernaut known as Team Fix the Late.
Yeah!
But most of all, we would like to thank Mayor Wilson. We'd like to thank you for your years of passionate advocacy and unwavering support for public transportation, transit riders, and the thousands of transit workers who move this city. You've always stood beside and fought with us, and we appreciate that. Seattle's residents have always understood that our region cannot reach its full potential without safe and reliable public transportation. Seattle's unwavering support for and investments in public transit haven't gone unnoticed or unappreciated by our union members. When buses sit in gridlock, a transit operator's day rapidly becomes even more difficult and stressful than it usually is, as they'll lose their brakes and bear the brunt of passenger frustration from being off schedule. Creating dedicated transit lanes on congested corridors like Denny Way is critical to keeping public transit a viable option. Our transit operators can't wait to try them out.
Yeah!
These bold actions announced by Mayor Wilson today will hopefully change Route 8's well-deserved moniker from the late 8 to the great 8.
Yeah!
I'd like to end here. Today is a great example of the power of individuals banding together to demand solutions for a neighborhood's complex problems. We'd like you all, this coalition here, to please consider joining our union in advocating for the neighborhood around 12th and Jackson. A concerted public advocacy for restoring their safe access to public transit is long overdue and should be a right. Thank you.
Hello, transit riders. I want to give it up to the amazing crowd over here for turning out today. Thank you for being here and thank you for your continued advocacy. Hi everyone, my name is Alexis Mercedes Rinck. I am your Seattle City Council member representing the Office of Position 8, or as we call it, the People's Office, but also your only car-free council member, proudly representing the 20% of Seattle households who do not own a car. Yeah! And I could not be more excited to be here today. I almost can't believe it. Can we give it up again for the incredible folks that are a part of this effort today? Thank you, Mayor Wilson. Thank you, SDOT, all of our advocates, our union partners. Buses are the backbone of Seattle's transportation system. They connect our neighborhoods, they get people to work and school, they reduce traffic congestion, cut emissions, and are the most affordable way for thousands of our neighbors to get around town. Buses are how the waitress working and getting off a double shift gets home safe. Buses are how the home care health worker gets to her client on time, how the kid gets to school without asking anyone for a ride. That's who we're talking about. That's who we're here for today. Buses aren't just transportation, they're climate action and community connection. And when our buses work well, our entire city works better. And last October, me and many of the partners here before you today joined together to save a bus lane serving the Route 2. Yeah. And so it's a little surreal and exciting for me to think about how just a few months ago we were joining together to just protect a bus lane, and now here we are a few months later, now announcing an expansion to them. That is an exciting development. What a difference some leadership changes can make in this moment. And so, when we joined together, we announced the Better Bus Lanes campaign. And one of the top priorities in that initiative was to add bus priority lanes on Denny Way to make the infamous late bus the great bus. And in that announcement, we also announced a action to bring before council, the budget action, as mentioned by my colleague, Councilmember Saka, to direct SDOT to study this effort of putting bus lanes on Denny Way. And that budget action was unanimously approved by council. And I want to thank my council colleagues for similarly seeing the importance of studying this and moving forward on making the late bus the great bus. Because for too long, the city has neglected the riders of Route 8, one of our only east-west bus routes connecting some of our most vibrant neighborhoods. The riders of Route 8 have been patient, a little too patient, and this east-west corridor that connects Capitol Hill, the Central District to Uptown, it's been stuck in traffic. We can do better, we must do better, and today we're taking that first step together in doing better. And here's the best part. Bus lanes are a smart, affordable investment. They're cheap, proven, and effective. For a fraction of the cost of our other infrastructure projects, we have the power to transform how our busiest routes perform. And our city is growing. Our population has hit over 800,000 people. We've actually added 80,000 people in recent years, 80,000 new neighbors, but only 3,000 additional cars. Yeah. People are choosing to live here in our city and choosing not to drive. The least we can do is make that choice work. This is about more than bus lanes. This is about the city that we're building together. A city that works for everyone, a city that delivers on the basics, a city that takes climate action seriously, and a city that puts people first. So thank you again to SDOT and the Mayor's Office for moving swiftly and showing leadership on this issue. Thank you to our advocates, I know Seattle Streets Alliance, Transit Riders Union, Transportation Choices Coalition, Fix the Late, for your tireless advocacy on this work. Thank you to ATU 587, our bus drivers who get us where we need to go. And thank you to every single person who rides transit and our bus riders. Now, let's paint the town red. Thanks.
Yeah!